today. So every day we start fresh because we can't affect the past, but we damn sure can make a difference today.
Welcome back to another episode of Shop Talk. This week we are covering the season 7 finale of The Rookie, aka episode 18. We had the return of Oscar, Monica. There were a few other twists and turns. Some were good, like with Chenford, sort of.
Mhm.
Some not so good,
It depends on how you
like the
look at it.
ending. Yeah,
Yeah.
depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so we've got a lot to cover, but of course, first we'll dive into some news, but then we'll get going on the episode.
hmm Yeah. There's a lot of news because
There.
a lot of postmortems, but also upfronts for this week. So that's exciting. TV Line did report that from the Disney upfronts that The Rookie is slated for a mid-season premiere in January of 2026. So similar to like what we had this year, 18 episodes for 18 weeks, barring that there's no interruptions,
Right.
which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I feel like this
No.
season was so like just like bombarding with all the episodes, so it'll be nice to have like kind of a long hiatus.
Yeah.
And we already did it once, so we can do it again. It's
Right.
fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Like
fine.
I'm not mad at it. I mean, I can understand the possible upset, but like I'm not mad at it.
Yeah.
I think we will all be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, I feel like it's just gonna fly by because we'll have the cast going back to filming in like June, July. Um,
Right.
there's Epic Con Chicago 3, in July. Like, I think we'll be fine. I think
Yeah.
hopefully everything will be fine. I don't know. But
Yeah.
yeah, so speaking of Epic Con's Chicago no Chicago 3, it's a little over 2 months away, and we have some
Yeah.
exciting news. We'll
I'm
both
going to.
yeah, we'll both be there. So a little
Yeah.
reunion between us, between the cast, and then other rookie fans. So that's exciting.
Yeah. So if you guys like see us, like please come talk. I love to talk to people.
Yeah. Oh
Like
my God. It was so
do.
much fun the last time. I can't wait to do it all again.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Mhm.
And then Patrick's podcast dropped today with Liseth on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. I haven't watched it yet. I'm saving it for tomorrow, but I'm so excited to watch it
Yeah.
probably on
I mean,
YouTube.
I watched a clip of it that he had posted,
hmm
which was fun.
Yeah.
Just because of Liseth's reaction to her being called a celebrity
Yeah.
versus how Patrick, sees himself as a non-celebrity, even
hmm
though now he pretty much is, especially after all his viral posts,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
from behind the scenes of the rookie and stuff. So yeah, that'll definitely be something. Hopefully, if he keeps like a fairly regular schedule with releasing the episodes, and that'll be a hiatus thing to enjoy
Yeah.
for everyone. So
Yeah. He did say that like this week is Liseth, next week is Melissa, and then the week after is Derek. So we have like,
fun,
some content coming our way. So that's fun.
right?
And then Mel is also going to be on the I've Never Said This Before podcast with Tommy DiDario, dropping next Tuesday. So be sure to listen. I've heard that he's done really good podcast episodes with other actors and stuff. And she kind of shared about it too, and they had some good conversation. So I'm excited to listen to that.
Yeah,
So, do you want to
and
talk
then
about the upfronts? Because
oh, I
you
mean,
laid that
yeah,
thread. So,
I know. Yeah, I did a whole thread of upfronts, like pictures, videos, like from the cast when they posted as much as I could. Anyway, I think there's over like 50 photos
yeah,
in varying degrees of, the cast in their, lovely outfits and they just all look fantastic.
yeah.
So, um,
We didn't
yeah,
have
and then
Lisette or Melissa there, which was sad,
yeah,
but it's
hmm
okay.
yeah, that was a bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
Um, and then we do have a TV Guide article. There were a bunch of postmortems with Alexi from just the episode, but also the season as a whole. So we kind of broke a couple of them down. TV Guide, Max had interviewed Alexi and said, or asked Alexi how he thought about developing Chenford over the course of the season, and is there a reason why they haven't been able to have an honest conversation about where they stand And so Alexia just said we had moments along the way where they moved towards each other and then moved away a little bit. I do think that having conversations is not necessarily their strong point as a couple. It's obviously exacerbated by the drama between them. And then that kind of led into the next question about why did Tom, who's Tom?
I don't know.
Tim initiate the conversation instead of Lucy at the end of the finale. And Alexia said, I wanted to make sure that he was respectful of the fact that he was the one who did the damage. It felt important to have him conscious of trying to do the right thing by her. And I like that ultimately Lopez was the one who both understood that and said, don't go overboard with it. She needs to also know that you want this as well. So it felt important that he needed to get checked on, not overcompensating for trying to do right by her. Um, and then Max also like asked about Lucy falling asleep, and is it fair to say that they're on the precipice of that long-awaited conversation of getting back together? And Alexia said, I think we're almost there. I think ultimately we're not trying to set up some sort of situation where he had a shot and missed it. I felt like it felt organic to have her fall asleep, given how exhausted she was. I do think they've been working their way back to each other. They've definitely turned a corner and the professional obstacles are out of the way. I think that they need to still have that talk, the conversation. I don't want to rob them of that, but I think we're almost there. So in season 8, I think we're getting I mean, at least
Mhm.
I hope so. Otherwise, like, what was the point, you know?
Yeah,
And then Alexi was also asked if in season 8 Lucy will still be working night shifts or is she back to day shifts? And he said, I think that obstacle will be short-lived. And I think he dug into it in another one of the interviews and said, it's just a lot like for filming and the crew and stuff. So
I'm
that's
sure.
probably why. Yeah. And then Max also asked about Oscar and Monica as looming threats for the entire season and then bringing them back in the finale and what threats they pose or they continue to pose. And Alexi said that Oscar is just a really fun nemesis, and I don't think we can keep going with to the well of him getting away. So there's something, so that's something that they're trying to navigate and going into season 8, what's the next chapter of that story? And then as far as Monica, he said there's such an antipathy towards her. Uh, we have such a hatred for her as the characters, and now she can go free thanks to getting immunity. It's provocative in a good way for the characters, and then the storytelling in season 8. But we'll have to see where it goes. But it seems like the next good step. So. And then Alexi also talked about developing Harper and Selena's arcs this season. And he said with the Harper one, we definitely try to keep the conversations about injustice and the justice system alive. And it's very personified by her relationship with James. So that was kind of the beginning of some relationship struggles with them, that led to him obviously getting shot. And then he talked about the big season for Selena with her graduating, her getting to be a cop outside of being a rookie. She had started the relationship and then moved in with Lucy, and even like her relationship with Miles's Joy. So he said that we really try to keep everybody moving because the show is a character driven show. The cases are all there to serve the character. We don't even think like the A story is about the case, but the A story is like Nolan is going through X, and therefore, how can we invent cases that thematically help tell that story, if that makes sense? So, and then Max touched on the not lack of Lopez personal storylines, but just not as many for the last 2 seasons, and how Alexi's looking to rectify that. And Alexi had said, to be transparent, we have a lot of characters who we love and who are a joy to write for. We can do anything tonally, emotionally, whatever, with them, but from season to season, things have to ebb and flow. So, definitely in season 8, the pendulum will swing a little bit, not necessarily to say that we won't give Harper anything, but just in terms of giving Lopez more, um, there might be a lot, some more like storylines with them. So, Alexi did say, I love them together and love to see both their home lives and also the obstacles that we can deal with for the two of them. So I think it's safe to say that we won't leave the audience disappointed next season with Lopez. So yeah.
That's good.
Do you want to take the TV line interview?
Yeah, so TV Line also interviewed Alexi, and One of the questions was, where did the Oscar, Nolan, and Harper scenes take place? And it was the same place where they shot the finale of season 4, so that's why it looks familiar, or may look familiar if you're, a longtime viewer. Um, and then another question that was asked was if the writers will do a time jump, in season 8 opens, what'll happen with Chenford. Um, will they be living together? What will be going on with them? And Alexi had said, I don't know about that. I do think the conversation should be had. I think the audience expects that and wants that. We're almost there. So again, moving in the right direction, which is always a good thing.
I think the audience, I don't even know if there's a stronger word than expects that right now, but I feel like we're all like grasping for it. So
right.
yeah.
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 Yeah, and they had also asked about if season 8 will be like, open in a pretty continuous style, or if there will be a title card, with 3 months later or something like that. Alexia had said that the season premiere of season 8 will definitely be fairly continuous, not literally the next day, but within a fairly short amount of time. And so there's some time sensitive stuff that was left, open ended. So they will resolve it soon for the audience. So
I think
that's good to hear.
even I think even in a different interview, he was like maybe even 3 weeks later or like a few weeks later, and I was like, no, we need it right from the jump. So especially
Yeah.
with that Chenford conversation, I don't really care about the rest. Just give us that Chenford conversation right away. Like I'm talking, she wakes up the next morning on that couch and he's sitting there and they're having that. So
Yeah.
do you want to take us through the screen rant one too?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Alexei also sat down on Screen Rant. He talked about, Monica's immunity deal, if she's in immediate danger to the police and anyone in particular. Uh, he doesn't know about that necessarily. He thinks that it's enraging to the cops that have been trying to get, like capture her for a full season now. And the fact that she's untouchable for her past crimes is incredibly frustrating for the
Yeah.
characters. And so he was also asked if uh, they were going to explore more about the top secret information Monica gained access to, or if that was meant to just be a catalyst for her return. Alexi said it was a callback to the Speed episode. I'm not sure how much more we're going to get out of that in season 8 just yet. Um, so, which I guess makes sense because that was the like other time that we saw her,
Yeah.
like very briefly, albeit,
Yeah.
but yeah. Um, and so he was also asked why he decided to leave Chenford where they're at in season 7. Um, he said ultimately you leave the episode knowing where it's going to go. Obviously, Tim has done the work. Lucy and Tim still need to talk about it. We're heading in a good direction. Um, and so um, he again said, in terms of the will they, won't they, if we'll get, more of that in season 8, or if we'll get a definitive answer to Tim's question. He just had said we're heading in a really good direction for fans of Chenford. So I'm hoping that alludes to a conversation and definitive answer.
A reconciliation. That's
Yeah,
what we need. Like,
right.
I need more than just a conversation. I also hope, though, that we're not being baited. I don't think we are, though, because the way that it did set up at the end, like, that they're going to have the conversation.
Yeah,
So, I
yeah,
don't know. I guess we'll see.
yeah. He had also touched on, Lucy being a sergeant now. So what does that mean for her in terms of undercover work? Um, Alexa said she could still do it for sure. The door's not closed to her. Uh, he doesn't think that they're going to do undercover as a long-term assignment for her. But he does think that we will probably see her go undercover again in season 8. They just need to come up with a different way to do it. Um, and then last but not least for this interview, he was asked about um, Miles being set up by the Eastern Front gang, and could there be others since they arrested everyone in that specific scene? Alexi said there could be. I don't know. I haven't thought too much about that. Ultimately, that was a fun way to deal with the fallout from obviously the Del Monte story and the blackmail that they tried to exert on him. And also the very real Tim's point of view that you don't put down that you're a cop on those dating profiles because people have strong opinions about police officers. It just felt like
Mhm.
a really nice one too. And I and he said, I don't have a thought about if it needs to go further than that. I think we have plenty of bad operators in Los Angeles for our show, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right.
I feel like maybe not right away. They need to come
Yeah.
back. But then
Yeah.
again, like the DA's race is talked about too in these
Yeah.
interviews. So, who knows? I don't know. I
Mhm.
feel like that just needs to kind of continue to be a side storyline. Like, don't make it the Eastern Front, at least, don't make it like a big ordeal. So,
Yeah.
yeah. There was a Collider interview with Alexi, and they asked how will Zuzu come back, and Alexi had said, I was very happy with that. I mean, that storyline was super creepy and also very grounded. Sadly, with these AI chatbots and all that kind of stuff, and the fact that it was tied to a children's program, I think it's really creepy. But then we went back to it in the documentary episode, but I don't think we've seen the last of Zuzu. We just need to come up with an unexpected way to reintroduce it, which I don't have yet, but I agree. I'm very interested to see where that goes. Yeah. I kind of thought Oscar was Zuzu, not gonna lie. I mean, I guess he still could be, but
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, and then there was a TV Insider article with Alexi. He met up with all the big platforms. And he was asked when did he know that he wanted the reveal with Monica and the immunity deal. And he talked about when they were breaking the bus episode. um he was thinking like what's the next time that we would see Monica, and as they were trying to figure out where they wanted to go with her since they'd been away from her for a while, that's when they came up with the whole immunity deal. And it just kind of felt like the ultimately a way to sort of have a cliffhanger without really doing anything that puts anyone in jeopardy, because he's a little allergic to that these days with the state of the business, which I appreciate. I don't want to see anyone in peril, so I appreciate that.
Yeah. I know you have other shows that's unfortunately happened to
Yeah.
main characters, so it's like,
Yeah. And
yeah.
she was actually in one that killed off one of the main
Ooh.
characters. So
Oh my gosh.
Bridget Reagan was in 911.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And funny enough, Alexi didn't know that. And they're on the same network.
What? Oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah. And he
Oh my
shut
God.
down the idea of a crossover with 911 and the Rookie, which I don't know.
Oh, well,
People
that's
are
so weird because the
still,
upfronts, like the cast was like, oh, okay,
yeah.
911, because 911 was like, oh, the rookie 100%. So I was
Yeah.
like, okay, you can convince me to watch 911 for the sake of a
Yeah.
crossover. Like, sure.
I mean, it works.
Um,
Like it could work. Well, and it's
yeah.
funny too because Derek had like posted an Instagram story and he's like with three of the cast members from 911. I'm like, Derek, don't tease us right now, please. But I loved
Yeah.
Nikki's tweets because she was like, this is the closest I'm ever gonna get to a 911 rookie crossover because they
Right.
just hate me. And it was
Yeah.
like Eric in the background of a Ryan Guzman interview, and I was like, I
Right.
mean, I'm here for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't know. I thought it was funny when he was like, I actually didn't know that she was in 911. I'm like,
Right.
but wouldn't she have to figure it out because of her shooting schedule? I guess like they're undifferent because like
Mhm.
911 just wrapped and the
Yeah.
rookie's been wrapped. So yeah, but I thought that was funny. But yeah,
Yeah.
another ABC show. She
Hmm.
actually killed off one of the main characters. In a
Yeah.
way. It wasn't like directly, but she created the
Right.
potion or whatever and that got him.
Right.
So yeah. Um
Hmm.
so and then Alexi also was asked what he can tease about season 8, and if Chenford will be back together, and he's even if he can't say exactly when. And he said, yes, I think I can say that. I'll give you that one. So beyond that, again, I'm not 100% sure. Let's talk in a few months. He's dancing around the subject,
Yeah.
but they are most definitely going to be back together. Like,
Hmm.
You heard it here first, folks. Just kidding. We don't know anything.
No, I
But
wish we did.
yeah, same. But like they're gonna be back together. They have to be. So,
Right.
and then on showcasing that Lucy was ready for this position, just with the episode and the way that she handled the team, Alexi said, of course, she stepped up and took over. The dream team is real. We have a former police officer on staff, and this was his story based in some reality when he used to be a cop, which we also loved. Is finding the real of policing. But yeah, like how does she get these guys into shape and how does she do her job and all that kind of stuff was really important to show in that episode. So I liked it. I liked that storyline with it. So
yeah, same.
do you want to take the last interview?
Yeah, and then Give Me My Remote also talked with Alexi, and he was asked how are they planning to play the DA race into the next season and what might that mean for Wesley and for him and Angela. And Alexi said Wesley joined the DA's office to make a difference to fighting injustice in the justice system. That being said, I do think he's come up against the reality that if you just work there as opposed to being the boss, you can only affect things at the margins. So we are going to kick the tires on that idea of him considering, is there more? Okay, well, that should be, are there more things I can do if I were the boss?
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah.
the question is what, that would do to the relationship between Wesley and Angela, and putting yourself in the spotlight can be problematic when you have a history that Wesley has, where Elijah was a part of that. And so Alexi said that maybe that's an organic way to bring Elijah back. He doesn't know. They might have been talking about it though. So
yeah, we're just gonna
that.
bring all the villains back.
Right.
Yeah. I could see that kind of being the next Wopez personal storyline. Like,
Yeah.
she's all for it, but maybe he's not, or vice versa. And kind of how
Right.
they go between that will be
Yeah.
interesting. Because I would assume it would be something similar to like Nyla and James.
Yeah.
But maybe
Well,
not.
I don't know, because like Wesley has the money aspect too. So it's like if he has, certain threats that he could possibly, make go away with
Yeah.
money. Like I feel
Yeah.
like, that could be a possibility. Not the best
Yeah.
one, but a possibility nonetheless.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I don't know
So
though.
I guess we'll see in
Yeah.
7 months, 8 months,
Yeah. 8, technically
Yeah.
speaking.
Yeah. So, but we'll get into the episode now because it's long and we're only on page 6 of 18 of our outline. So,
Oh, why tell people that?
because why not? I think it's fun. It's a
Please
long
still
one.
listen. Stay around.
Yeah,
Don't leave
no,
yet.
no, grab all the snacks, grab all the drinks, like, buckle up because it's kind of crazy. So we'll start off with the John, Harper, Oscar, all of it. So John apparently has a wall of Oscar, as he calls it. And Bailey's like, you're obsessed with this case. And John's like, no, I just need him behind bars. Okay, I saw a lot of people talking about this. If he's obsessed, then why has Oscar been on the run since 6/18? Like, okay.
Well, also, I think
Um,
just every time he gets a lead, it's like you can't quite connect all the dots. So it's like
yeah,
he's almost there, but
yeah,
not quite.
yeah. But it was just funny how John was like, if this goes here, then that leads to there. And I'm like, you have it figured out. So
Right.
why are we just not getting to it? So yeah, so he talks about whenever he gets a hit from one of the law enforcement databases, he pulls it out and adds it to the Oscar chart. And today's alert was Sal Dodo being murdered the day before at a motel in Barstow. And so we see him put a post-it note under Jason's name, and you kind of see Bailey like freak out for a minute. Like just seeing Jason's name on there, she's kind of
Oh, I'm sure.
triggered.
Yeah.
And we see Monica on the chart as well. Sal and Oscar used to be running buddies in the late 90s, part of a 3-man crew that stole $10 million worth of diamonds from a jewelry store in Vegas. And Bailey wonders why Oscar wouldn't be living on a beach somewhere if he had that kind of cash. And John explains that when the crew was on their way back to LA, the cops caught onto them and they split up to hide out. So Oscar escaped. Like, that's obviously why he doesn't have the money. Sal was arrested, and then the third member of the crew, Reggie Acosta, was arrested as well. And so the diamonds were never recovered, and John thinks that Reggie hit them, but Oscar didn't have the money after. So, and after Sal got out of prison 5 years ago, he's been living in an SRO ever since. So the only one who knows where the diamonds are is Reggie, and he got out of prison today, conveniently. I liked how it like transitioned from him talking to Bailey to him talking to Gray and kind of like showing him all of that. That was really
Yep.
cool. So Nolan's sharing all of this with Gray, who asks if he reached out to the feds about this, and Nolan's like, Garza was kind enough to not laugh in my face. The U.S. Marshals, not so much.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure the U.S. Marshals were like, you need to sit down. You're
Mhm.
like, you're doing a lot with this. So Gray grants him a temporary duty assignment to be detective for 48 hours and take Harper with him to Barstow. I saw some people being like, John becomes detective before Lucy does. And I was like, kind of tracks. I don't know.
Yeah. But I
Yeah,
mean, technically,
it's just
she
for
outranks
48
him
hours.
regardless, though.
That, yeah.
So there's still that. But no, I understand.
Yeah, yeah. So Nolan goes to leave Gray's office in a hurry. And, of course, he forgets the chart at first because he's just flustered and kind of all over the place, scatterbrained. And Gray reminds him. And so as he takes the chart off of the desk, he knocks the pens over, and Gray's like, just leave, just leave. And he like puts his face in his hands. And I'm like, oh, he's so done. He's so done. Which, yeah, I mean, I feel that. So Nolan and Harper are driving, and she's happy to help, having a bed to herself for the whole night more than makes up for it. And they talk about the crazy year that they've had, and Nolan's like, you have no idea. And she just gives him a look. And I'm like, yeah, you give him that look because yes, he's had a crazy year too, but like she's had an even crazier one. And so
Yeah.
he remembers all that she's had going on, and he's like, strike that. And she was like, we all made it through, mostly intact. And I'm like, what does that mean? Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I'm like, I don't know. We have like 15 minutes left. Like something could still go wrong. Um, and I do like that they had the little conversation, kind of looking back on the season as a whole, like as the characters, it was fun to see. Um, and yeah, I mean, this season has been kind of crazy. So, it was kind of nice to like I said, like have the characters look back on it too. So Nolan and Harper pull up to the Sunrise Motel and are met with a drone who almost hits the windshield. And they meet up with Barstow PD, who tells them that the maid found Sal Detto inside around 9 yesterday morning, and the ME put time of death between 2 and 5 a.m. So the victim had checked in the day before, but there were no complaints. And there were no statements from any of the other guests. No one saw or heard anything, and all the security cameras are broken. So, Nolan and Harper are going to set up there, and they go into Sal's motel room and Harper's like, all right, tell me what you see, detective. And it's very TO of her. Like, I feel like it was very much like you saw their TO like kind of
Mhm.
rookie lifestyle again, or
Yeah.
dynamics again. And so, nothing's really knocked over. There's just blood on the wall and the door. And John plays out what would have happened with, Sal laying on the bed, opens the door, assailant stabs him, he staggers back, lands on the floor face up. So it makes sense that, Sal would open the door to a familiar face, viciously stabbing an old friend to death is so very Oscar. And so Harper tells Nolan to get a couple of rooms with a vantage point. And we go back out to the kid with the drone, Dash. And we see that the drone is over the pool. And his mom's like, you better not fly that drone over those girls at the pool or you'll be grounded. And he's like, I'm making a movie. Okay. He's like 14. I don't even know.
Right.
So John walks up to him, and Dash says without even looking at him that he's not supposed to talk to strangers. And John's like, well, it's a good thing I'm a cop. So yeah, you can talk to me. And Nolan asks Dash if, he was there yesterday. And Dash explains that they just got there a few hours ago and that it's his mom's latest midlife crisis. So Dash is like, are you guys here because of the murder? Even offering to keep an eye out and record anything that looks shady. or anyone who looks shady. And Nolan's like, oh, that's not necessary or safe, but if you see anything, give me a call. And so Nolan's watching the motel parking lot, and Reggie Acosta pulls up, and it's clear that he's taking a trip to the hardware store, which is the ultimate red flag because he pulls a shovel out of the trunk. So the shovel is proving Nolan's theory that he buried the diamonds in the desert. And if they stay on him, Acosta will lead them right to the diamonds. And Nolan wonders if Oscar has the same plan. And it turns out he does, because Oscar is watching Nolan and Harper and Acosta. And he's like, it's good when the gang's all here. I'm like, oh my God, Oscar
Right.
Hutchinson. So it's nighttime. Bailey calls John and, asks if there's any sign of Oscar. And when asked if Harper can give him a break, he's like, oh, I didn't want to wake her up just yet. Like, I got the feeling that she's looking forward to some uninterrupted sleep. And, so Bailey suggests him finding some caffeine. And so he goes to the vending machine. And that's when Oscar comes up from behind him and tastes him and then takes his energy drink. Like, he can't even leave it there. He's like, oh no, I'm just going to take this with me.
Yeah.
Um,
It just like
and
cracks me up though, because it's like if Bailey had not suggested that John go get caffeine, and like he
mhm,
literally wouldn't be in the situation, but
yeah,
then we wouldn't have the episode. So,
yeah. They get themselves into trouble.
they
As
really
much
do.
as they can't have like a normal date or a normal day, they get themselves into trouble too. So,
Oh yeah, they do.
yeah. Yeah. So we see Oscar driving to Pat Benatar's Hit Me With Your Best Shot. And John has his wrist chained in the trunk of the car, and they're driving through the desert. It was very much giving DOD from season two. And I didn't really want to make that comparison, but I was kind of like, I mean, it's got similarities, but DOD still remains one of the best.
Right.
Um, just because it has Lucy in it. So
Yeah.
Nyla wakes up and is immediately annoyed that John didn't wake her up. And so she calls him a few times and he doesn't answer. So she's walking outside and Dash is there and she asks him if he's seen John, but he hasn't. So she goes to walk into the office and like she's still trying to call him, but she hears like his phone vibrating on the ground next to the vending machine with blood next to it. So she calls it in and Dash stops her to look at the drone footage. And I love how he was like, hey, lady cop. I'm like, I mean, you could just call her ma'am or whatever. Like, okay.
Right.
He takes the drone into Acosta's room and he's been murdered as well. So we then cut over to Oscar and Nolan, and Oscar opens the trunk, but not before threatening John to not make any sudden moves or she's going to shoot him.
Yeah.
And so John climbs out of the trunk and he asks where Reggie is, and Oscar's like, oh, I didn't need him anymore. I have his arm with a tattoo of the map on it, and he pulls out a severed arm.
Yeah.
What?
I know. I was
Oscar
like,
is
wait.
crazy. I was
Oh,
like, no,
yeah,
no.
that was too much for me.
And Reggie didn't even tell Oscar at first and just let him torture Reggie.
Right.
I don't know how he didn't see that. I mean, I guess unless the guy had like long sleeves on, but so Oscar seems so nonchalant about it because like why not, just be chill about it. And John's like, you could have just taken a photo with that tattoo, but okay. And Oscar's like, oh, I didn't think about that. No, why would he? That's too easy for him. He's gotta, go all caveman, apparently, according to him. So
Yeah.
he throws John the arm. And I'm like, how is John Nolan gonna catch this? Because he's literally like cuffed. And the
Hmm.
cuffs are like attached around his waist.
Yeah.
And so he throws the arm to John, telling him to hold it up, and he takes a picture. Now he wants to take a picture. Yeah, sounds like a great time to do that. John's
No,
face when he takes the picture is a whole mood. Whole
I
mood.
know.
It needs to be, it's another reaction picture.
Yeah.
And so he then has John put the arm in the trunk and he's just like, just throw it in there. It's fine. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
It's like not really, but okay.
Yeah. And also like, I don't, why is it just like hanging out in your backpack? Like, I don't know, wild, wild.
Yeah.
And so Oscar tells him that they're gonna go on a hike for some treasure and John's gonna dig it up. John's like,
Of
why
course he
don't you
is.
just dig it up? And Oscar's like,
Right?
prison's bad for the back, and I can't. No, but you want John Nolan to, and he's cuffed, and you're not gonna like let him like have an arm free. Okay.
Right.
So Nyla's on the phone, I'm presuming with Gray. And she's getting in John's truck, telling him that local police are on the way, but the search area is massive. And she's like, I need the whole world out there looking for Nolan. Feds,
Yeah.
marshals, anyone with a badge and gun. She ends up walking up to Dash and his mom, and she tells him that she needs to borrow Dash. And Nyla explains who she is, the situation, and that she needs Dash and his drone to help find John, promising that, he won't be in any danger. So Dash goes with Nyla, and he's so excited. Literally, the little skip that he does walking to the truck is everything. I
Yeah.
didn't catch it on the first watch, but on the rewatch, after seeing everyone talk about it, I was like, oh, that's the most precious thing ever. He's just so
Yeah.
excited.
Hmm.
So Dash and Nyla are driving, and he sends his drone off, and because they need eyes in the air. So we go over to John and Oscar's like, it warmed my heart to see you at the motel the night before. I'm like, can you not be creepy about this, please? And, Oscar knows that it sounds crazy. He's a criminal, John's cop, but, their relationship is the most stable one that Oscar's ever had. And John retorts back and he's like, that is truly sad. And I'm over here like, Oscar, you're sick. But also, yeah, that is really sad. Like,
Hmm.
no one else. And so John figures since him and Oscar are now BFFs, he'll ask Oscar how him and Jason managed to escape from prison. And I mean, why not? It's as good of a time as any. And Oscar's like, oh, that was Monica. She needed some prison intel. And, I leveraged an exit package, but he has no idea where she is. And he just knows she's on to something big.
Yeah.
So Oscar looks at his phone and John starts to walk towards him, but Oscar's like, nope, and pulls his gun back up. And he's like, I can't tell if this is an N, W, or an M on the map. And asks John, and John's like, it's W. And the line going up the index finger is the dry riverbed that we passed 10 minutes ago. So they miss it and have to turn around. So we go back over to Dash and Nyla. They're still driving. Dash thinks he saw a person, but Nyla's like, it's a cactus. You did not see a person, it's a cactus. And then he sees a flash from a car window, and that's John and Oscar. So they get to their spot. John leads them there, with Oscar skeptical, but it's literally written on the rock. Like it's literally there. And Oscar throws the shovel over to John and he's like, start digging. And John's like, I can't, like I'm cuffed. And Oscar threatens to blow off a few toes and questions
Yeah.
how much harder that would make the digging. And I'm like, what are we doing here?
Right. It's
Like,
like, good God, dude, what is your problem today?
yeah, like can we just like get to it? So there's no footprints leading Dash and Nyla to John and Oscar, so Dash ends up getting them on the drone. And Oscar wants John to go fast because he's on a schedule. So, we have to follow Oscar's schedule. And then John hits something and it's the diamonds. Oscar's geeked out. He's like, oh, there's more in there than I thought. And Oscar's like, shut the box. And when John doesn't at first, Oscar tells him not to mistake their relationship status for compassion. And so Nyla and Dash can see everything that's happening, right, with the drone footage. And so Oscar threatens that he can hurt John a lot before he kills him, and that then he'll go after Bailey. So Nyla's like, Dash, hit him with the drone. And Dash is like, am I gonna get in trouble? And Nyla tells him no, he'll be a hero. And so Dash takes Oscar out with the drone, giving John the time he needs to get the cuffs off with the shovel. And he starts to use the shovel to like impale on Oscar, which you would think that that would do a whole lot more damage, and it surprisingly didn't.
Well, because he was
Um,
like shuffling around with the ground, moving out of the way, so I don't really think he got
yeah,
as many strikes in as he would have liked to.
yeah, that's true. And so they start fighting and everything, and as Nyla and Dash pull up, there's a helicopter coming for Oscar, and they're both like, "Oh, there's my ride." And so Oscar starts running for the helicopter, and as John gets Oscar's gun, Nyla's out of the truck, Dash is hiding, gunfire erupts with like things going off in the sand, and Oscar's off. But he realizes he doesn't have the diamonds, and he's pissed, which yeah, I could easily, I mean, obviously. But John's fine and says that the drone strike saved his butt. And I was like, oh, well, that was all Dash. Like, yeah, I told him to do that, but that was him. And I loved how he got out of the truck and he was like, is it safe now? Like,
Yeah,
yes, it's
we're
safe.
good.
And John's like, Oscar got away without the diamonds because I have them. And so he gives them to Nyla. And did you catch when Dash was like, "Can I have one?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you sweet little bean. No, no." So,
Right.
yeah, that's the end of the John and Oscar stuff. And at this point, I was like, why did we bring Oscar back this season at all? Like, I get it. We needed him with the whole Jason stuff. But even then, like,
Yeah.
it's we didn't have that many mentions of him before. So like
Yeah.
why couldn't we just leave him be or bring him back a couple of times or something? Like I don't know. And then for him to get away again, I was like, what was the point of all of that?
Yeah. I mean, I
So,
definitely thought they were going to get him
yeah. and
and not have him get away. Like, I literally thought when I first saw the helicopter, I was like, oh, okay, even more cavalry's arrived to like
Yeah.
help out. And then I was like, oh, fuck no. He's
Yeah.
getting in the helicopter. They're bad people.
No, I thought the helicopter was the LAPD too. I was like, oh, there's, Nyla's called in for backup. No, there was no backup that came. It
I
was
was
just
like, oh
Nyla.
my God. Yeah. So I was like, okay, what happened to all the people that she needed to call, to go
Hmm.
find
Yeah.
John? Like, what the heck? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where we go in season 8 with it and how soon we pick up with it. Because if
Yeah.
it's like middle of the season or end of the season, like let's just be done with it?
Right.
So, do you want to take us through the Chenford stuff?
Yeah. So we had um the Chenford of it all. Um, we also had Lucy's new schedule as sergeant on the night shift. So we got to see her get introduced to the group at roll call by the night shift sergeant, and she'll be working with the dream team, which she actually seems excited about. And then we see a montage of Lucy taking calls. There's like a kid playing with the landline who dialed 911. There's a silent alarm that went off that was false. There were, two guys in a fight being gone by the time she arrived there. So all these issues are code four for her. And during all of these, her team, the dream team, is nowhere to be found. So she asked Dispatch to track them and make sure the calls are going through to them, which they are, and the team is all in one spot. And so when she investigates this, she learns why the team is called the Dream Team, and it's
Hmm.
because they sleep during their shift and don't move to go help on calls.
Yeah.
So um, she's obviously pissed about this, and when she gets back from her first night, Selena is super chipper, is like, "Good morning," and she's like, "Nope, it's 1 o'clock for me." Um, and she basically collapses on her bed, and she is understandably exhausted. Um,
Yeah.
but she's, complaining like she doesn't understand how exactly she's exhausted after just one night shift. Um, and, Selena has faith in her that she will somehow inspire this dream team to, like, get their shit together, basically.
Yeah.
Um, and then she asks Lucy a roommate question, that you know, if Tim's going to be coming around more often, that way they can coordinate things with Raj being on tour. And Lucy kind of is like, what in the world are you talking about? And Selena is basically saying, you're a sergeant, he's a sergeant, what's the problem? And Lucy tells her that they have to have a serious talk before anything can happen between them, like getting back together. So, um, obviously, that's not happening just yet.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, Selena's not wrong with that though. Like
right.
you had tweeted 1 + 1 = 2.
Yeah,
It's fine.
I know. I was like, what the heck? I was like, yeah, exactly. She's not wrong. And I just love how Selena, um, I know you had tweeted this, like, Miles is still not clocking Chenford, but like Selena is this whole entire
Yeah.
time, even like leaving them alone by the elevator, after they're making the hard eyes at each other. So it was like she, gave them a minute to talk for
Hmm.
a second, and which was good because we hadn't really seen them like talk much since their shifts had changed. Um,
Hmm.
and um, we did get to see them attempt to text each other, but it didn't really go over that well for either of them.
Yeah.
And so Tim ends up asking Lucy if she wouldn't mind, getting together to talk on Wednesday. And before she can answer, she's like briefly interrupted by the night shift team dropping by. But she does eventually say yes to Tim's invite. Um, and at least Lucy got to basically yell at her at the dream team to get their asses in gear to go help an officer in trouble, which I'll also get into later. And so like they, off they went. They're all driving in sync and actually managed to help in a situation. Wow, what a concept for them, really. And Lucy's proud of herself for how she handled the situation, as she should be.
Yeah.
And like we also got to see Tim, going to Angela for a little bit of advice about, well, okay, how should I do this? Do I, am I still able to talk to Lucy? Is this going to be, you know, too much or not enough, or what do I do? And she's like, well, you better do something, because if you leave her hanging, then like that's going to be, like breaking her heart all over again.
Yeah.
So, obviously that part like helped, I think, Tim, like give Tim the push that he needed for like what he was doing in the last scene of when Lucy comes back to her apartment and discovers that Selena had let Tim in before she left for work, and he's making all of her favorite things. Like there's sea bass, apparently, there's veggie burgers, there's pancakes, there's chocolate croissants for her, all the things. And I was trying to remember like what each one of them was from, and I like couldn't. And then it took me a minute to remember that, oh duh, he did make pancakes for her. Like I could remember
Yes.
everything else, but apparently I could not remember that
Wait, the
just a
sea
couple
bass
seasons
was
ago.
from their first date, right? Or was
Yeah.
that from the double date?
That was from their first,
So
yeah,
then
their
what were
first
the
date.
chocolate croissants from?
Well, someone else had asked that, I think, somewhere on Twitter I saw, and technically like Nolan was the one that brought those over after
Oh, yeah.
Lucy had gone through her DOD ordeal.
Yeah.
But obviously it's like one of her favorite things. So,
Yeah.
which honestly, you'd think that we would see them more often than if it's one of her favorite things. Although
Yeah.
I feel like they might have been in that like box that Selena had of like treats, like from a few episodes ago,
Oh,
but I
yeah,
don't
like the
know for sure though.
pastries.
Yeah, I don't know if that. I don't
Yeah.
know. Someone else that is more familiar with those things would have to tell me if a croissant is technically a pastry that would be included in a box
I
like
feel
that,
like it is. I
because I
feel like
have
it
no
is.
idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I couldn't. It took me a minute to remember the pancakes of all the things. Um, but anyway, so Tim's over there being a chef, and tells Lucy to go relax while he finishes up cooking for her. And so she's settling down on the couch and, leans her head against the pillow and everything. And, Tim's telling her, like, as he's finishing up the food, kind of, telling her about how, he's worked through a lot in therapy, and that, she can really trust him when he tells her that that he'll never hurt her like he did ever again. Um, even though he doesn't know exactly what to call what they've been doing, like the hookups, the chats, etc. But he, knows that he wants to give it another shot with her. And so he thinks that, the next step to doing that would be to have her move in with him. And you see that as he's asking her that last part, he's like rounding the corner from the kitchen to the couch, only to discover that Lucy's actually fallen asleep as he's confessed that last part to her. Um, and I think he whispers like that was a good try, or it was a good try, or something of that nature.
Yeah.
Um, and then says that, to be continued, as he's putting a blanket over her and like kisses the top of her head. And I'm dying.
Hmm.
Like the Chenford crumbs were so real in this
They were.
episode.
They
So
were. I saw
yeah.
some people saying that like it was cheap of them to write like Lucy falling asleep and all that. And like, I don't know, just more chatter about that. And I was like, yeah, I can kind of see that, but also at the same time, like I feel like he was so nervous anyway to just text her that like maybe he needed to do that. Like he needed to kind of like talk it out without
Yeah,
her
just
like actually hearing it before
yeah,
he
just
does talk to her
right.
about it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I feel like even like because during, because like she couldn't, I forgot to mention the, tiny scene where she couldn't sleep during the day when she was at her apartment by herself, because of all the noise. So it's like obviously she's exhausted for
yeah.
one. And so obviously she's gonna like, you know, I mean, I wish I were the kind of person that could fall asleep anywhere, but like if she's gonna just like sit and lean up against this comfy couch, like
Right.
how would you not fall asleep?
Yeah.
Like I don't blame her. But then also, like you said, it's kind of like because Tim had his back to her for a good portion of the
Hmm.
conversation that he was having about,
Yeah.
where they are and what he, wants to do. And like she was not always looking at him for every single second. So I feel like that kind of made it easier for them to kind of do the conversation without actually face to face, like sitting,
Yeah.
2 inches apart from each other or something. Um, so in a way, I'm kind of, I don't know, not glad that they did it, but like I don't mind it
Same.
that it happened that way.
Yeah.
Um,
I also feel like she just, I mean, yeah, she was exhausted, but like also she felt comfortable enough. I mean, granted, it is her apartment, but like she felt at ease enough to fall asleep, like right
yeah,
there on the couch. Like it wasn't like, oh my God, I'm gonna go change into comfy clothes and like crawl in bed. Like it was so much that she was exhausted and she just sat down on the couch and let like sleeps come her. But then at
yeah,
the same time, like Tim was there cooking food. Like she knew that she was like in a good spot, if that makes sense. So,
mhm,
yeah. I don't know. I
yeah,
feel like people were saying it cheapened it. I don't think it did. I feel like if anything, it just gave him the next step to really push for that conversation because I
yeah,
feel like he needed to get that out before he actually says that to her, just so that
right,
like he kind of prepares himself for it. So, yeah.
yeah.
But
Especially since, like you said, they couldn't even text each
yeah.
other. So,
Yeah.
like the fact that they're able to actually have a conversation,
Hmm.
even though it's a short one and not how we expected it to go at the end of
Yeah.
the episode, I thought was progress. So,
Yeah. Well, even like in the district too, when they were like making hard eyes at each other. I mean, obviously they're
yeah,
not gonna have a conversation about their relationship there, but it was
right,
just kind of like they were still like awkward with each other, that it was
yeah,
like, yeah, like they need to not build it up a little bit more, but like they both just kind of need to like make sure that they're comfortable with that at first. So,
yeah,
yeah. I don't know, I guess we'll see in like 8 months where they
right.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, 8 months till season 8. It's fine.
Uh-huh. Add Alexi, I need this to be the first scene. Like, open it with the first scene being the Chenford talk, please.
Yeah.
Please. So next we have Angela and the bank robbery. Honestly, I didn't feel like this storyline needed to be in the episode. There was a lot other
No,
going on.
this was not what I thought it was going to be at all. I was
No.
expecting like a, pilot scene, like her being at a bank when it happens or
Yeah.
something, or similar to how, Nyla and James were,
Hmm.
at a bank when things were going down, or at least just have her not be stuck at the station all damn day,
Yeah. I was
interrogating
like,
people and asking questions and all this
to
stuff.
me, I was like, I don't think we really needed this storyline. Like, it didn't really propel anything. I mean,
Mm-mm.
besides for like a little Lopez moment at the end where it was kind of like,
Right.
okay, hopefully we get more of them in season 8 and like they're reconnecting and stuff. Like that
Yeah.
propelled us a little bit, but it was just kind of like, what, okay, what is the point of this? So Tim and Miles roll up to a masked man running who's losing money from the bank robbery in the process of running. And, you know, as they get out to arrest him, they ask if he has any weapons on him. And he's like, just a plastic one in my sweatshirt pocket. He's clearly not like I don't know, in the best position to be a robber.
Right. Like he's not a professional criminal.
Yeah. Yeah. So he says that he only robbed to the bank to save his girlfriend who needs a heart transplant immediately. So like that's where we leave off and then the bank robber, whose name is Julius, is being questioned by Angela. And, he's talking more about Boyana, who lives in Bulgaria, but the only doctor who can help her is in Switzerland. And so for her travel to Switzerland, it will be $5,000, and the procedure itself is nearly 50,000. And he's like, I knew it was wrong to rob a bank, but she has revolving myeloma and it's a rare disorder and her blood type keeps changing and a transplant is near impossible. And at first, like on my first watch, there was so much else going on that like I did not give this storyline much attention. It was on the
Yeah.
second rewatch when I was filling out the outline that I was like, I'm sorry, her blood type changes? No.
Like that's not a thing.
That's
No.
not a thing at all. And the fact that
No.
like he didn't think about that is interesting. But
Yeah.
then Miles, Tim, and Wesley are all in the viewing room, and Miles is like, "Is that a thing?" And Wesley's like, "If it is, that's news to me." And I'm like,
Come on,
"Yeah,
guys.
that's not a thing." I did look it up though, and it's not necessarily a disease, but it is a common phrase to disease. So according to Google, revolving myeloma is a common phrase referring to the relapse and refractory nature of multiple myeloma. So it means that after initial treatment, the myeloma cells may return / relapse or become resistant to treatment, which is the refractory. And this can lead to the cycle of treatment, remission, and then relapse. And like just ongoing, it needs ongoing monitoring and adjustments to treatment. So like the revolving aspect highlights the cyclical nature of myeloma, but like I was like, okay, this is not needed in this finale episode. So the robber says that he met Boyana through social media. She liked one of his posts and they just hit it off. They haven't met in person though. They've just talked online. And so Angela shows him a picture of her in the hospital bed and she's like, "Do you notice anything weird about the picture?" And he's like, "No." And she's like, I can't believe that this is actually discussed in the episode. She's
I
like,
know.
there's 7 fingers on one hand and 3 on the other. Hey, at least it was 10, though. It wasn't like
Yeah.
12. Um, and the guy wonders if it's a birth defect. And we
I
come
can't.
back over to Wesley, Tim, and Miles, and they're like, what is going
Yeah.
on?
I can't. I mean, I will say that I have watched another show where there was like a person with like 6 fingers on one
Yeah,
hand, but like, I mean, they made it look real enough with the special effects, so it like worked. But
yeah.
yeah, that was like something else. I was like, holy moly.
I mean, and this is like a common thing with things now. Like you hear of like celebrities having AI generated photos and stuff, but
Right,
it was just like, why? Why is this
right.
part of the episode?
I guess
Um,
maybe since we have the Zuzu stuff, it was like kind of to play
mhm.
into that and how this type of technology is so distracting and
Yeah,
like over can be overpowering.
yeah. And even then, like you could have argued that Zuzu was behind all of this. Like I didn't even think about that until you just said that. So
Yeah,
so Angela's like, no, it's AI generated, and people's blood type does not magically change. I would have loved to have Gray in this too, just to witness it all because he would have been like, "You're actually crazy for thinking all of this." Like,
yeah. I mean,
what?
he would have just put his head in his hands and been like,
Hmm.
no.
Yeah,
That's not that's not what this is.
yeah, yeah. So Angela tells him that someone is posting his Boyana and scamming him, and he's in disbelief, says she's wrong, and he's committed multiple felonies and he's going to jail. And the realization hits him now, and he's like, I robbed a bank. I'm like, yeah, and you fell for this scam. Oh my gosh, it was just crazy. I feel like it it continued nicely with the scamming because like last episode we had Nyla's mom with the scam and then now this. Like I could kind of get on board with it, but this one I was just kind of like, okay, there's a lot going on in this episode. Like we don't need this right now.
Yeah,
And so he's like, my wife is gonna be so pissed. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, what? What?
right.
And Miles was even like, wait, I might be sticking with the single thing for a bit.
Yeah,
Um,
he was like, I'm less and less sure now about
yeah,
dating.
yeah. So Angela walks back into the viewing room and Wesley's like, well, he's clearly being catfished. But Tim presents his point of view and he's like, or he created the photo in case he got caught. And I'm like, I don't think he created that photo.
I know. I was like, Tim's getting him way too much credit. That guy's a
Yeah.
nut.
Like, no, he didn't even notice the fingers. I mean, I guess he could be lying about that, but Angela's like, no, he seems genuinely heartbroken, and as dumb as it is, he thought he was saving her. So then Angela's talking with the wife of the robber, Heidi, and she's just in shock that he got catfished into robbing a bank for an imaginary girl that he thinks he's cheating on her with. She's like, it wasn't the perfect marriage, or it's not the perfect marriage, but I thought we were happy. And she's like, what am I supposed to do now? And Angela's like, if I were in your situation, I'd file for divorce and change the locks. I'm like, Angela, you're never going to be in that situation. At least I hope not. And if you are, take some of Wesley's money too. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
if he does that, yeah, go for it. So Heidi came back in later in the episode and, they had a few follow-up questions about her husband and she's like, I'm ready to put this all behind me. She seems like better than when she was in the
Right.
earlier part of the episode. And so Angela's like, have you seen any suspicious behavior around your home? Any break-in attempts, strangers on the property, missing laptops, devices? And she's like, no. And Angela asks if she knows much about IP addresses. Turns out Boyana's messages from to Julius weren't coming from Eastern Europe. They were coming from Julius and Heidi's house. And Heidi's in shock. And Angela's like, well, Julius didn't catfish himself. And if
Right.
no one else had access, then you had to have done it, right? And so Heidi confesses and says she didn't mean for any of this to happen. He's always been gullible. And at first she thought it was endearing, but, it started driving her crazy. And she started thinking about divorce, but splitting everything 50-50 isn't fair. She just continues confessing for it. And she says for Boyana, Julius is willing to risk prison. But for me, like he forgets milk at the grocery store. So we end that storyline. And Wes and Angela meet outside the interrogation room. And Wesley can't believe any of this. I love how he goes out and he's like, so he was catfished by his own wife in his own house. And he's just like a little gossip about it.
Right.
And he then confirms that Angela's not hiding anything from him. And she's like, no, don't be
Hmm.
silly. And, she's like, I know you're not hiding anything from me. And he suggests that they take this cautionary tale as a sign to reconnect as a couple. And she suggests a weekend reset, which I mean, I feel like we should see, but that's okay.
Right.
So Gray comes up to Wopez and tells them about Garza calling and, says a high priority meeting is taking place first thing in the morning at Homeland Security and that they need to be there. Gray didn't ruin the Wopez moment, but like he interrupted a little too early for my
Oh
liking,
yeah.
but that's fine.
Oh yeah.
So I I didn't really know where to put this, so I just kind of put it in the Wesley and Angela stuff. But Gray, Wesley, and Angela all show up at Homeland Security at that meeting, and they see Garza and Nolan there, and they're like, "Nolan, what are you doing here?" And then
Right.
at that moment, I was like, "Yeah, why is he here? And where's Harper? Like,
Right.
where was she?" And there's a bunch of bigwigs there too. Like everyone's in suits or, their uniforms, and they're all just confused as to why they're there.
Right.
And no one's like, I thought Garza wanted an update on Oscar. It turns out the helicopter was found. The pilot and door gunner were both dead, clearly because Oscar couldn't pay them. But Garza says that what he's about to say was no one's first choice. The decision was made at the top of the food chain, and now the entire intelligence community and Justice Department agencies came together to evaluate the intel and the national security repercussions. And he's just like, he just keeps talking vaguely and vaguely, and everyone's just confused, and they keep trying to get the answers. Um,
Yeah.
and Wesley puts the pieces together and he's like, wait, no. Because Garza mentions the secure NSA facility. And at this point I was like, what? Like I forgot all about that. Um,
Yeah.
but I had seen in the like cast videos where they were thanking the fans for all of their support, there was a rap video and like Garza or Felix Solis and Bridget Reagan were standing in it. So I knew that they came back.
Yeah.
Um But yeah, so Garza pointed out all of the ways that this could backfire, but he was overruled. And Angela's like, okay, so who is this about? Like, I'm confused. And Monica walks in and out of the room at the same time. And she got immunity.
Mhm.
So yeah, and Angela is pissed. You can like her face when
Right.
Angela or when Monica walks away is amazing. Alyssa killed that. So
Yeah.
yeah. It'll be interesting to see how Monica comes back and like how they kind
Hmm.
of play that or wrap it up or whatever. Especially with Del Monte bowing out and Wesley's kind of like, kind of confused with all that. It'll be interesting to see. And I wonder if
Yeah.
that Eckert takes or leans more towards Wesley's side or Monica's with a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see.
Hmm.
Do you want to take us through the Miles and the Eastern Front stuff?
Yeah. So Miles wants to get back out into the dating world, and we first see him. Well, he's asking Selena what ethically non-monogamous means, and then how can he change his profile stats for what kind of relationship he wants, which is monogamous, monogamous.
Hmm.
um, and Tim comes out and says that he should make sure not to say that he's a cop on these profiles because they either love you too much or they hate that you're a cop. Um, and before Selena can tell him how to like get rid of that from his bio, Tim, basically yells at him, let's go. And so he leaves it be. Um, and in the shop, Tim tells Miles that dating in LA is the worst. And Miles was hoping for some encouragement. Uh, and, from Tim, yeah, right, like that, whatever happened. Um, and Miles is, kind of all excited because he has apparently already matched with someone as he's telling Tim, and
Hmm.
says that she's cute, and Tim replies with the fact that the picture could be 20 years old. He doesn't know for sure. Um, and Miles makes the grave, albeit slightly funny, mistake of wondering aloud how Lucy survived, implying survived dating Tim. Since talking to him is like trying to catch flies or whatever Texan saying he used to like describe
Yeah.
talking to Tim. Um, which made Tim stop the car and tell Miles that, he's not his friend, he's his training officer, and disrespect can basically send him packing. And Miles apologizes, saying that it'll never happen again. Um, and a little bit later, we see that Miles even gets Tim like a drink and his favorite snack at their next stop, which is also where we saw Tim trying to text Lucy. So it was kind of like, I just thought it was kind of like, I don't know, just interesting to see Tim kind of like fumble with his phone and then try to like put it back real quick. And
Yeah.
Miles came up and then
Yeah.
like hands him a Coke and the almond. I was like, wow, okay, he's really trying to,
Yeah.
be the best boot ever
Yeah.
to
After all
make
of
up for what he
that.
said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And how Miles isn't clocking Chenford yet is beyond me because he was standing there with Selena and Chenford
Right,
and they were giving hard eyes and he's just like, okay, I'm just
right.
like gonna go in this other room.
Yeah,
I don't understand how he's not clocking them.
yeah,
But maybe he's just so ingrained in the rookie stuff that he's like
right.
not paying attention. But even then, I don't think that's really showing that he's a good cop, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah. And so we do see, like I mentioned earlier, like Miles is by the elevators. We had seen like some of this in the sneak peek, not all of it. And he's, with Selena and Tim when Lucy comes by, and she notices his sweater, which he says is nice, and Tim, is like, Boots got a date, and Lucy ends up giving Miles advice for the first date, saying basically to listen more than he speaks, and which is polar opposite of Tim's, dating in LA is the worst, and all this kind of pessimistic attitude about it. And we get the Chenford hard eyes with each
Yeah.
other, which was cute. Um, and so we then see that Miles is dated at a nice restaurant, and his date's name is Raina Davitt. And their conversation starts out fine. Like they order wine. He's a gentleman, like pulling out her chair for her to sit down. All this, and when she starts asking about his profession, which obviously means that Miles didn't get the chance to delete the cop stuff out of his bio. Um,
Hmm.
and he's, kind of like he answered their questions, obviously, like he doesn't have to wear his uniform, like all that stuff. Like, yes, he has a gun, but like obviously he's not just like gonna like pull it out in the middle of a restaurant and show her or anything.
Yeah.
Um, but he then notices I think it was a seven necklace around her neck. And he excuses himself to go to the restroom, but really he sneaks into the kitchen or like the back of the restaurant to call
Hmm.
Selena for advice. Which originally for whatever reason I thought he was gonna call Tim, but then I was like, no, I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah. And so he's calling Selena, and she was saying, the seven could just be a lucky number, or in Miles's opinion, it's a symbol of power for the Eastern Front gang. So Selena looks Rena up and discovers that her brother is in the gang. And that happens at the same time. Miles looks out the window and overhears slash sees the gang members talking about basically, you know, beating him to a pulp when he
Hmm.
gets outside from his date. Um, and so, and then we both get the, you're in trouble, I'm in trouble
Yeah. I
moment
loved
for
that.
them.
I
That
loved
was
that.
that was good.
I love
Um,
their friendship. It's just so
yeah,
good.
no, it was really good. Um, and so he takes off, mad dash outside, commandeering a car from someone and speeding away. This is after, mind you, firing all the gunshots, but the gang's
Hmm.
like on his tail, and he's, dodging these bullets and like driving this car, and calls 911 to report the incident. And I'm just like, how is he doing all of this? And not that I need characters to get injured, but it just amazes me that
Yeah.
whole array of bullets flying fairly
Yeah.
consistently as he's driving. How not one of them even, I don't know, nicks his shoulder or like,
Hmm.
I don't know, flies right above his head. Like, I don't know.
Well,
Um,
and then like when he called to Lucy, he's like, I'm here. And she's like, okay, go here and bring them to us. And I'm like, I
right.
wouldn't be able to focus on all that, you know?
Yeah, I was like, how did she even? I was like, I don't even barely remember what the heck she just
Yeah.
said. Um, and like, I just thought it was like, I mean, obviously good that like Selena also called Lucy to like tell her about it.
Hmm.
Um, but like Selena was so worried, and I was like, oh, okay, that means like we're gonna actually like see her like
Like,
go.
come, yeah.
Yeah, and then we like didn't.
Right.
And so I was like, wait a minute, then like why even bother showing her like putting on her
Hmm.
jacket and then getting what I was assuming her gun out of the safe or whatever.
Yeah. I
But
feel like
anyway,
this whole scene and storyline would have been better in a separate episode because, like, I would have liked to see like the repercussions of all this for Miles. You
yeah,
know, like Gray going after him and being like, you shouldn't have had that on the profile, and like, you need to vet people better and all that. Like, it could have been a good learning lesson for him, and I feel like it'll just get dropped.
right.
But
Well,
yeah, I don't
especially
know.
it's like that's like another person, albeit that the fact that she was trying to kill him or get him killed, which is why she lied, but like he already had Seth lie to him, like
Yeah,
in a sense of like, their friendship
yeah,
and all of his lies. So it's like a I mean, I guess I'm reaching a little bit, but like a little bit of like compounding that,
hmm,
lies on top of lies. So it's like
yeah,
poor Miles just can't catch a break of people not, you
yeah.
know, being who they say they are and doing what they say they're gonna do.
Yeah.
So
Well, and like he has to have trust issues with certain things, right? I mean, he
right.
has to. So, like do we get to see him work through that? Like I hope so. I hope
Yeah.
so in season 8. I
Mhm.
mean, we know he's coming back in season 8 and presumably still going to be a rookie. I mean, unless they time jump his rookie period, but I hope not.
Yeah.
Um
I hope not even.
yeah, I mean,
We'll
I
see.
feel like he's learned good stuff from Tim, but there's definitely a ways to go still for him, for sure.
Yeah. Hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So like Jennifer had mentioned, we do get to see Lucy kind of run interference. And Lucy and her night shift team basically like head out, and that was the officer that was in trouble. And she's the one that told Miles to pull into the like this overpass or like, but it looked like a lot. Like it was so dark,
Yeah.
and I was trying to watch this, and I was like, wait, it looks like an abandoned like lot where a building used to be or something. But then I was like, okay, I
Yeah.
was like, I don't really care where it is. The point is, is that, you know, he pulled into the thing, so he's in the clear, and
Yeah.
Lucy like kind of T-boned one of the vehicles and then ran into the other one, and then they kind of did like a surrounding with the rest of her team
Yeah.
and got all of the Eastern Front members. There are 5 in custody, so you know, Miles is okay. And he does thank Lucy for the help and thinks maybe he'll just stick to the single life for now.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, after all that nonsense, yeah, I would too.
Did you catch the little like Southern phrase that he had too?
Oh no, I
It
missed
was
that. What
something
was
about
it?
the bacon, and I was like,
Oh, right,
oh,
saving my bacon or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, never stop giving us your Southern phrases, Miles Penn,
Yeah.
please.
It was so
So,
funny. And
yeah.
like I was geeking out because I was like the girl that played Rena, the actress was in an episode of SVU like
Yes.
ages ago.
Yes. As
But I was like, she
Tinsley?
has not
Yeah.
aged at all
No.
because I was like, her face looks the exact same. And I was like, just trying, it took me a second,
Mm-hmm.
but I was like, nope, it was some other show that I
Yeah.
watched numerous times. But yeah, so that was fun
Yeah. Yeah,
to
because
see.
I was like, she looks familiar to me. And then
Yeah.
I was like, she low-key kind of looks like Monica. And I was like,
Yeah, I could see
okay.
that a little bit, like with the same like kind of structure
Yeah.
to the face.
But
Yeah.
then as I was watching her more, I was like, no, I've seen her in something before. So I went over to her IMDb and I was like, oh, she was in an episode of Shameless, but I know her from SVU because I've seen that episode with her
Yeah.
quite a bit too. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That was
it was
fun.
good. It was good. Yeah, I think that's about it for the episode.
Mhm.
So we do have some listener thoughts. Lou Jean had said, why did this have so much in common with the season 6 finale? Nolan and Harper in a desert, Oscar and Monica, Nolan in danger, Chenford is still broken up. Honestly, it didn't really feel like a finale, but it was still a good episode. I feel like I could watch the episodes out of order and still understand everything. Too many unfinished plots and the cliffhangers. Yeah, I feel like I could watch it alone and like just still get it. But yeah, there were definitely a lot of unfinished things. Like I tweeted last night and I was like, we have 6 minutes left and I need another 30 to wrap everything up. Because I was
Yeah.
like, I know that we have the season 8 renewal, but if we didn't, like, where are we going with all this? And granted, they filmed all that before they knew about the renewal, but
Yeah.
or at least that we knew about the renewal, but
Yeah.
yeah, I
I
don't know. It
mean,
was just a lot.
yeah. I would have been like mad if they didn't get a season 8, obviously just because of the lack of Chenford resolution.
Mhm.
But like the other stuff, I was like, okay, great. Monica has a deal. Okay, she's done. Oscar got
Hmm.
away again. Okay, we're never seeing him again. Like I
Yeah.
was just like kind of yeah, like it really it didn't feel like a finale
Yeah.
for
See,
me.
it kind of did with the Monica cliffhanger at the end, but then I
A
was just
little
kind of
bit.
like,
Yeah.
again, there's so much going on. Like, it felt like an
Right.
old rookie episode with literally 4 different storylines. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I was like, these are all huge storylines that I want to give my individual attention to. And I feel
Yeah.
like I think I had messaged one of our friends after the episode and they were like, that was a good episode. I was like, it was. I just feel like I've whiplash from it because it was like,
Yeah.
I mean, even outlining it, it was like so back and forth. So yeah.
Yeah.
They also said I felt so bad for Tim. The writers really don't want Chenford to have a conversation, do they? Yeah, but I also think like it was just kind of timing. Like, I mean, if they would have had the conversation at night, it still would have happened. If it would have been like, 7 a.m., it would have still happened. Like it was just timing and like she, has been exhausted the entire episode. So,
Yeah.
they also said I wanted this to be the last of Oscar, but I do love seeing Monica. Same. I didn't know what to expect as far as like what they were gonna do, but I was kind of hoping like we would be done with Oscar and just continue on with Monica. Like I feel like that's kind of how it usually goes with the villains, is like we lose one and we just continue to go on with another.
Yeah,
But
that's
yeah,
definitely
I
true.
don't know. There's just a lot of like villains out there in the rookie universe, and I'm like, okay, if we're bringing back a couple, like let's finish up their plots
Yeah.
or move the needle with them in some other way, you know?
Mhm.
Um, and they also said, I'm really starting to love Miles, him talking to Tim and the whole date thing. His manners, love him. Same. I'm glad that we get him in
Yeah.
season 8.
Yeah.
So,
I
yeah.
just need him to wear the cowboy hat again.
Same. Yeah. Yeah. And never stop with his southern phrases,
Yeah.
please. I love them.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, definitely. And then Z Station had said, my jaw was on the floor. When I saw her walking in, I never had such a genuine shocked expression in my life. I'm assuming they're referring to
yeah.
Monica. Okay, at the
Yeah.
very end. Yeah, I mean, I was like, oh, but then I was like, when Wesley figured it out, I was like, oh, right, it has to be Monica if Wesley figured
Yeah.
it out.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I want to go back and watch Speed, the episode, and see, did they all know about the NSA credentials being
Oh
stolen?
God, I don't know.
Like, because
That's a good
Wesley seemed
question.
like
I
he
don't know.
knew. And I was like, did we know? Did
Oh
they
God,
know?
yeah,
You know, like, I feel like they did. I feel like they did because they lost the girl who originally got them,
yeah,
right? And then, like, Chenford ended up arresting her. But
yeah.
then, do they know that Monica somehow got them? I don't think so because
Well,
she,
yeah, I was
like,
like,
crushed the
God,
phone.
yeah.
So that's a plot hole because how does Wesley of all people know that? You know? Unless like they already like convicted or whatever not persecuted, but just like, like questioned the girl. That's a
Yeah,
huge plot hole. Like yeah, that's interesting. So
yeah,
I hope we'll find more of that out in season 8 because
yeah.
I'm intrigued to know. Because like Wesley of all people knew that. Like even Angela was like, "Who?" Like I don't know what you're talking
Yeah.
about. So, yeah. Well, and John was just standing there like confused as if he wasn't on the bus and talking to the girl that took the NSA credentials. Classic John
Fair.
Nolan, Yeah.
Yeah.
Emily G had said, I thought it was a little weird that John was all of a sudden so obsessed with Oscar. Like he hasn't been missing this whole season. Yeah, that and the fact that Bailey was just like, yeah, so what's gonna happen? I'm like, okay, I guess yes, you guys would be close with this Oscar thing, seeing that he got out with Jason. But at the same time, we're acting like we've been talking about him all season. Weird,
Right.
weird. And then they also said then telling John telling Bailey sensitive police information, like he always does, even though I'm sure they aren't supposed to. When they included John in the meeting at the end about the leaked government information, I thought it was because he told Bailey about the murder at first. No, same. I was
Oh,
like, well, at
I
first
didn't
I
think
thought
of
it was
that.
the Oscar stuff. And I was like, and then he's just gonna mention that like he told Bailey too. But I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't think he's supposed to be telling her that, especially given her history with the hitman. It was like,
Right.
John, why are you telling her that? But
Very true.
yeah. She also said, I really wanted to see Lucy lay into the dream team. She found asleep while on shift. I did love to see badass Sergeant Lucy Chen. Same. And I
Mhm.
hope that we get to see more of that in season 8. I don't know how they would do that though with Gray and Tim, especially
Yeah.
if she's not going to be on night shift, but like maybe they can like switch off or something, you know?
Yeah. Because I mean, I did appreciate the fact that she's in like, I mean, I guess the police field as a whole is more male dominated than
Hmm.
female. But like, she's in a position of like overseeing these people that also happen to be all men. And it's like,
Yeah.
how is she going to deal with that? And so
Yeah.
you got to see a little bit. I just kind of want to see a little more. So,
Yeah. Yeah. No, like I appreciated seeing her on the night shift by herself. Like she wasn't with any of her like other friends or anything. Like she was truly on her own. Because when they were all like not responding to calls, I was like, oh, she's getting hazed right now because she's the new sergeant. Like that
Yeah.
one officer was pretty mouthy with her. Like, I was like, oh, she's getting hazed. But then, when she found that they were all asleep and like she called them out on their BS, like I was like, okay, go off. Like you've been doing their work for them all night. Like you deserve to do this. So she also said Oscar singing in the song choice cracked me up. When Oscar called John a bad hombre, I couldn't help but think, but is he though? Yeah,
That's
yeah,
fair. Like John being a nightmare to you. Is he
yeah,
though?
yeah. With so our friend Gina just caught up on the rookie, like literally a day or two before the finale. And she had watched the episode where Seth comes back and she like had quoted it and she was like, John being the nightmare TO, that's funny. And I was like, yeah, that is. Like when Tim Bradford is literally right there. So
Right.
yeah. Um, and Emily also said, I thought it was sweet what Tim was doing for Lucy by cooking her all of her favorite foods. That's husband material. Same. I was like, Lucy, marry him right now, please. Um, and Emily also said, I started to freak out when he asked Lucy to move in. I felt so bad for him when he found her sleeping. The kiss on the head about killed me. I hate that we didn't get to see what will happen with them this season. I really don't know if I can wait until January to find out what will happen with Chenford. Same. But also we have no other choice. So
Yeah, we really,
yeah.
really don't have a choice.
I mean, like, I don't know. It's so crazy because like we'll have seen not all of the content, but like a lot of behind the scenes content before we even get the episodes like we did this past year. So,
Yeah.
and it was cool to like kind of piece it together. Like, okay, they filmed this then, and like I remember people, kind of pulling the different TikToks and seeing different outfits of like, oh, they filmed this during this TikTok. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see that again.
Mhm.
Emily also said, of course, Monica had to come back, grace our screens with her presence, and had an immunity deal. She just gets whatever she wants. Definitely. And you know
Mhm.
that it just pisses Angela and Wesley off.
Yeah,
100%. So,
totally.
yeah. Do you want to
Yeah.
take Melanie's?
Yeah, so Melanie had said Luce needed to be more assertive with her team. It was a bunch of guys and they blew her off. Not once, but twice. She should have let them all have it. When she found out that they were asleep, when she was responding to all of the calls, she could have written them up or something when they did it the first time. Sure, they stepped up when they needed to, but she should have nipped it out of the bud after the first night. Um, and then Melanie also said fans got their wish. Chenford is moving forward, or Tim is ready to. Too bad Lucy fell asleep when he asked her to move in. Um, and about Miles, she said, good at his job, unlucky in love. Um, Melanie loved his storyline for this show. He picked up on the gang symbol immediately and needed Selena's help. An epic car chase, even though Lucy's team was asleep on the job. And Lopez's story was good, and it was nice seeing them interact. And Nolan, Harper, Melanie loved seeing them together, but it seemed a bit forced. Um, and of course, the drone was able to find them in the middle of the desert. And now the question is, who's Oscar working with? And then on the final scene, Melanie had said Lopez, Gray, Nolan, and Garza were all there, but Harper wasn't. Um, and she had just as much invested in Monica as the rest of them. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
um I had thought that too. I was like, wait, what about Nyla?
Well, I feel like
um
Nyla just being like a higher up officer, she should have been there. Like if
right.
Angela was, I mean,
Yeah,
obviously because she's tied to Wesley and stuff too, but
right,
Angela's a detective. I would think that Harper would be there too. It was just kind of
right.
weird to me, you know?
Yeah.
So,
um yeah, and then Melanie had added that, and that's the reason that Monica did what she did, created the problem so she could solve it and get away with all the stuff she pulled last year.
yep.
Yeah, sad but true.
Yeah. And then Emily had sent in some thoughts and she said the finale itself felt surprisingly calm, but in a good way. Not overly dramatic, just a solid classic rookie episode with a good dose of humor. I loved that Wesley and Angela acknowledged the need to focus on their relationship. That felt reflected in how we didn't see too much of their home life this season. It felt intentional and honest. That I will say. Like, I thought about that after the episode. I was like, okay, if they're kind of hinting at that, like, then they feel like they're kind of disconnected as much as we are. Like, we did have
Yeah.
them we did have a little bit of a focus on them in the beginning of the season with the whole like Detective Graham stuff, but even then it just kind of fell off after that. So it was nice
Yeah.
for them to kind of acknowledge that too. So
Mhm.
Emily also said Oscar is a great character and hope he gets back next season. I just wish there had been a few more hints in earlier episodes that Nolan was the one who created the Oscar murder board. Same,
Mm.
same.
Yeah.
I do love how Bailey and John were kind of like discussing the murder board like Angela and Wesley did with the whole like Aaron true crime stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah. I mean obviously the Lopez one was better in my
Mhm.
opinion, but hey, I'm a little biased to them because I love them. So,
Mhm.
um, Emily also said, I'm really glad that they took a whole season to focus on Lucy and Tim. Like Lucy said, it wasn't just the fact that he used to be her boss. They needed real conversations to figure out how to be together in the best way possible. I also liked that Tim took the lead in starting the conversation since he was the one who ended things. It felt right. And he was off to such a good start. If only she hadn't fallen asleep. Same. Yeah. I wondered, like, at what point during that, like him saying all that, did she fall asleep? Like, did she hear some of it, or as soon as she
Yeah.
sat down on the couch, did she fall asleep? Like,
Yeah.
I
Well, I
want to
mean, I
know.
think like after she kind of like said the like after he was kind of saying, that he,
Mm-hmm.
was working through some things, I feel like she probably started to drift off there. So I don't think she heard
Yeah.
any of the like,
Yeah.
you know, he'll never hurt her in the same way and that,
Yeah.
he wants to move in
Yeah.
together with her.
Well, and in one of the interviews, there was a comment or something about like how Lucy could have heard it and like Tim doesn't realize that she did, and then like she pretended to be
So
sleeping or something. I was like, maybe, but I feel like that's just kind of like immature for them at
it's
this
like a
point.
little, yeah, it's a little too like rom-commy.
Yeah, yeah, no. I think she's straight up just asleep. So, yeah.
Yeah.
That's about it though for the episode. What were your like thoughts on season 7? Because like you came in like halfway
Yeah, I did.
after. So like what were
Um,
your thoughts like overall? What did you like and dislike about it?
I mean, I liked, gosh, I'm trying to think. Like, I liked that they didn't have Chenford getting back together right away, as odd as that sounds.
Mm-hmm.
I do wish they had like gone deeper into, well, either side, I guess. Like showing Tim in more than one therapy session would have been nice. Um, you know, showing like how, I don't know, like having Lucy like be more introspective, I guess, instead
Mm-hmm.
of, well, I mean, I know she does like to talk things out though. That is kind of how she likes to solve her problems. So I guess that makes sense, but it was just like a lot of her like saying bits and pieces to other people and not
Yeah.
really like self-reflecting as much um as I would have thought that they would have maybe had her do.
Mm-hmm.
Um yeah, I don't know. I just kept kind of feeling like, okay, they hooked up. Oh wait, they're not talking. Oh, they,
Yeah.
pretended to be dating. Oh, they're not talking.
Yeah.
They, they almost died in a fire. Oh wait, they're not talking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. But then at the same time, I'm like, well, okay, Kim's making progress. Lucy's made progress in her, career and like her confidence and things. So like they have taken some steps. I just wish that we've gotten to see a little bit more of those
Yeah.
steps. Um, and I don't know. I mean, I liked, not that I liked the Nyla storyline, but Makia and RJ like killed those episodes,
Yeah.
acting wise. So that was like good to see them get featured. Um, and I of course love the rookie feds cameos that occurred in this season, obviously.
We had quite a few of
Um,
them, so
yeah,
it was
it
cool.
was good. And I think, I mean, I really did enjoy getting to see Selena's, like transformation from,
Hmm.
rookie to like official, like she's going out and doing things, on her own and stuff. And so that was cool. And I liked all the Lucina like scenes in their apartment.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I liked having Rachel come back. Um, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, I liked the new rookies. Definitely didn't see the whole stuff thing coming like
Hmm.
at all. Um, and so I kind of hope that like we'll get to see a little bit more of, since I don't know, like we didn't see, I mean, it was kind of quick. Like we didn't see enough of, I don't think like how Lucy was so like affected by that in
Yeah.
terms of how that made her pivot, like right quick to,
Yeah.
doing the sergeant's thing even more with more urgency, I think.
Yeah.
Um, and trying to think, yeah, I wanted more Lopez
Hmm.
moments. I am glad we finally learned their baby girl's name,
It's about time.
right? Um, and I mean, I like Balin moments; those were fine. I kind of appreciated in an odd way that they had more conflict this year
Balin,
than
yeah.
in previous seasons, just because it shows how relationships, no matter how good they can be, can have bumps in the
Yeah.
road. And I just appreciated the imperfect moments that they both had. So that was good. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like I feel like the mid-season finale felt more like a finale than the season finale
Hmm.
did this time around. And I was just getting so many deja vu things, like a little bit from DOD, but then more so even from the season 4 finale with the setting and everything. And
Yeah.
then being reminded that it was similar to season 6 as well. So it was just
Yeah.
a little bit too deja vu um,
Yeah.
for me
Yeah. For
in
me, it
that
was
sense.
like we're in the desert again. Like, I get it. It's California. Like,
Yeah,
there's desert area there. But I was just kind of like, okay, I feel like we're almost kind of done with this like storyline. Like
yeah,
as
because
far as
like,
the desert, like the area.
yeah, yeah,
So,
I was like, they took the feds to Vegas. Okay, the
mhm.
rookie's been to Vegas. Okay, can we be done with Las Vegas now
Yeah.
and any other desert
Yeah.
communities?
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like for me, I like you said, like I feel bad saying it, but also not really. I liked seeing Balin like have a little bit of conflict.
Yeah,
Like we know that they can't have a normal day
right.
slash date slash life, whatever. But it was nice to kind of see them have a little bit of conflict. I mean, I don't, I wouldn't have really wanted the whole Jason stuff to like continue, but I was just kind of confused as to why it ended like after 3 episodes and it just ended with
Right.
him like dying. I was kind of like, okay, that was the payoff for that.
Yeah.
But I know the reasoning behind it and it makes sense. So,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna get hate for this. I know I will. I'm with you. I'm glad that they didn't resolve Chenford in the first few episodes. But I'm also glad because I feel like it allowed us to focus on the other characters quite a bit more. Like,
Yeah, that's
yes,
fair.
we got to like focus on them and like them, kind of coming back to it. And I do wish that we got another like Tim therapy scene, maybe with him just a therapist by himself, like not in a support group. Or like Lucy even like talking it out with someone else or something. But I feel like we got to really see like the Harper and James stuff, the Balin stuff. We got to see a little bit of Lopez, but then like
Yeah.
Selena, Miles, and Seth, like, kind of
Yeah.
focused more on like everyone else. And I mean,
Yeah.
Alexi said that too in the interviews of like it ebbs and flows. Like there are some seasons where a character's focused on more than others. Like, it just kind of
Yeah.
happens. Um, Especially with a bigger cast and 18 episodes. Like it's gonna happen like that. So I'm kind of glad that we didn't have as much Shenford. I mean, we had moments that were
Yeah.
good, but like I didn't need it to be like 4 episodes straight of just Chenford heavy stuff. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So not that that would have happened anyway. The Seth stuff, like I understand again, like scheduling wise, they had to do that for Patrick, but also like I wish that we had got more closure with Lucy and Miles with it, more so than like Tamara and John Nolan. Like
Yeah.
I said that in the episode when we talked about it. Like
Yeah.
it did not make any sense for us to have the closure with them.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, the scheduling also
but
sucked because it was like a few too many episodes for my liking in between without
yeah,
like a few too many moments, I guess I should say.
yeah,
It wasn't that many episodes, but I mean, you know,
yeah,
because I wanted to know, like, oh, okay, he just threatened,
right.
everyone. So it's like, oh, he's coming back like
Yeah.
right away with a vengeance.
But
But
then like we didn't see anything from that. And then I was just kind of like, okay. Like that's where for me I'm like, if we're gonna say those things, we need to follow up with it. Like I looked and like Monica came in what episode 11 for Speed
yeah.
and then like came again in 18. Like and
Mhm.
even with Oscar, like, he got out of jail prison at the end of season 6 and like we're seeing him again at the end of season 7. I get it that there's shorter seasons, but
Yeah.
also like we're packing so much into episodes anyway. Let's just add that to it too. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know, it just makes sense. So, um, yeah, so I don't know. I feel like just following up with the stories more would be helpful. The Liam Glasser stuff was really good. I liked that. And I liked that
Mhm.
Nyla kind of had her stuff that was like with James and then also without James. Like, all that Liam Glasser stuff, James did not really have any kind of impact on or anything to do with it. Except for obviously getting shot, but even then that wasn't from Glasser, it was from something
Yeah.
else. So yeah. I don't know. I liked the season. I thought it was good. There were good episodes for sure.
Mhm.
So, yeah. That about wraps us up, I think, for season 7. We're done.
Yeah. Hmm.
Crazy. I can't believe
Right.
it. Like, we're already done with another season of The Rookie.
You know,
I don't know how
God.
to feel about it. I'm excited though because season 8's gonna be good, I have a feeling. So,
Yeah.
yeah. You can find us on Twitter at the Shop Talk Pod _ or email us at shoptalktherookiepodcast@gmail.com with all of your thoughts. Now that it's hiatus, we are catching up on other shows that we've missed and watching all of the summer shows. I'm so excited for my summer shows to come back. And by
Yeah.
my summer shows, I mean Claim to Fame and Bachelor in Paradise for some reason is like my new favorite summer show. Don't know why.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if you feel so inclined and you're bored, like talk to us too, because we're cool
Yeah.
and we talk about other stuff than just the rookie. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 You
Okay.
can find us individually on Twitter as well. I'm at jstark804.
And I'm at Carrie Hyman.
And we're on TikTok as well at the Shop Talk Podcast _ Be sure to check out our merch at shop-talk.dashery.com. We may have some new designs coming. I have some thought up. I just need to like sit down and make them. And yeah, they're on sale as well. And so we're probably going to take a break for a bit because we've been
Yeah.
going literally for like 18 weeks. Well, minus
Well, I
one.
mean,
Well,
yeah. Well,
yeah.
okay. Jennifer's been doing like 90% of it, of everything. So while I was, laid up for a few months. So round of applause for her because she
Thank
did
you.
she did the majority of it. So bravo
Um,
to her. But yeah,
but
we'll definitely both
yeah.
need a little break.
Yeah. Just because like it's a lot. So yeah, we'll be sure to keep you up to date when we're coming back. Because we definitely will be back. I mean, duh, we
Yeah,
have a season 8. We gotta come back. So
right.
yeah. But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to plan some fun like summer height, not even summer, just the
Just
rest of
hiatus.
2025 hiatus
Yeah.
episode ideas.
Oh God.
It's so funny because last year at this time I was like, we're seriously getting a mid-season premiere? Like this sucks. And now I'm kind of
Yeah.
like, no, I'm low-key hyped for it because of how good
Yeah.
this season turned out. And like it was
Right.
just to me, it was easier to like grasp and digest all of the episodes because it was like so like back to back. We didn't have
Yeah.
like 2 weeks on, 1 week off, like nothing like that. So yeah. But yeah, ABC's doing that because it worked so well this season. So
Mhm.
keep it up. Keep it up. But yeah, we'll be taking a break and we'll keep you updated on when we're coming back. Until then, bye everyone.
Bye, guys.
Go get him, boo.